Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to week 10 of your SAT prep sessions in Plug Time. Our topic this week is going to be two-variable data analysis, which is basically us reading various types of line and bar graphs into variables. So there'll be an X and a Y, an independent and dependent variable, and we'll be asked to interpret different things about that graph. Okay? So we're going to go through a couple examples together, and then again there will be a skill check on Quiz Is. So, example 1 says, the graph shown to the right shows the relationship between time in seconds and distance from the finish line in meters for Juan while he competed in a race. Which of the following is the correct interpretation of point B in this problem? So point B is the point located on the x-axis, which is approximately the point 65, 0. The x value is 65, the y value is 0. So it's asking you to interpret B in terms of the problem. Now remember that your x is your time in seconds, and your y is your distance from the finish line. Okay? So what that is saying, 65 is seconds, and 0 is the distance from the finish line in meters. In other words, Juan has finished, he's reached the finish line at 65 seconds. At 65 seconds, his distance to the finish line is 0, meaning he has finished the race. This is the kind of thing they do with the SAT. They want to see whether or not you can interpret a graph in SAT style. So again, we need to locate point B. What is the interpretation of point B? So we go and we locate point B, and we figure out what it means. Well, the x is time, so 65 is representing seconds, and the y is the distance from the finish line, so y is 0, which means after 65 seconds, his distance from the finish line is 0. Or at 65 seconds, Juan has finished the race. He has reached the end. Okay, on to the second example. In the second example, it says the line graph shown to the left shows total amount of snow in inches recorded each year in Washington, D.C. from 2003 to 2015. For how many of the years in the time period between 2003 and 2015 was the total snowfall at least 30 inches? Okay, at least 30 inches is a fancy way to say that the snowfall, the y, is greater than or equal to 30. So if we were to graph that on our graph, well, that would be a horizontal line at 30, right there, okay? And since it's greater than or equal to 30, we would then be shading in everything above that line. So this would be the inequality, y is greater than or equal to 30, would be graphed. It'd be any point that is on or above the line y equals 30. Well, if we look at this graph, there are 1, 2, 3 years where we are above that amount of snowfall. In 2003, we got 40 inches of snow. In 2010, we got something like 55 inches of snow. And in 2014, we appear to have gotten about 31 or 32 inches of snow. Those 3 years, B, 3 years, were the number of years in that time period where we were at least 30 inches, for those 3 years, 2003, 2010, and 2014 are at or above 30 inches, at least 30 inches. And the trickiest part of that can be those two words, at least. At least is a way to state greater than or equal to. If it had said at most, that sign would be reversed and the correct answer would be 10. Okay, so it's all about reading the graph, okay, reading the problem and interpreting the graph. Okay, on to the third example. Okay, on the third example, it says the graph to the right shows Marilyn's distance from her campsite during a 3-hour hike. She stopped for 30 minutes during her hike to have lunch. Based on the graph, which of the following is closest to the time that she finished her lunch and continued her hike? Now, folks, how do we tell, think this to yourself, how do I tell when she is not moving? because she stopped for 30 minutes to have lunch, that section where she is stopped to have lunch, she is not moving. That section of the graph is the horizontal line right here. So this is where she starts lunch, and this point here is where she ends lunch. She's not moving during that time. Her distance is constant. It's not changing. So which time is closest to the time that she finished lunch and continued her hike? Well, that is sometime between 1 and 2 p.m., and it's going to be closer to 2 p.m. than 1 p.m. That is approximately 1:40 p.m. that she is finishing her lunch and continuing on her trail. Okay, 12:40, she is still moving. 1:10 appears to be when she starts lunch, which is not what we were asked for. 1:40 appears to be when she ends lunch, which is our answer. And then 2 o'clock is when she's the furthest away from her stopping point and starts back, okay, from her campsite. All right, so that's it. That's how we do this. Okay, you got to interpret the graph, and you have to figure out which answer correctly answers the question that you were asked. Okay? Which of the following is closest, that's the key, to the time that she finished lunch? Okay, that would be 1:40 p.m. That would be where the horizontal section ends, right there. Okay, so we're off to Quiz Is. Go to Google Classroom and locate the Quiz Is for the week. Good luck, and remember that this is going to be counted in your math grades, so you need to take your time and think through your answers. Thank you very much for your time and attention.